There is a secret menu at your bank. And trust me, you are not on the list. Have you ever noticed how the wealthy seem to get everything for free, while you are stuck paying a $38 fee just because your paycheck landed 2 hours late? That is not an accident. It is a deliberate business model. Today, I am breaking down the 3 specific net worth tiers where banks drastically alter how they treat you, the actual math defining each level, and why the entire system is engineered to keep you locked exactly where you are right now. I am going to show you who is actually footing the bill for those so-called free checking accounts, and the concrete steps you can take to fight back. I'm Pam, and I spend way too much time analyzing money, financial psychology, and the reasons why some people build wealth effortlessly while others remain trapped in identical financial cycles for decades. If you want to understand the true mechanics behind how the banking system profiles different people, hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if it helps you view your money in a new light. Think of it like a tiered gym membership. You and the person working out next to you both pay monthly dues, but they get a personal trainer and complimentary smoothie service. You get a rusted locker and a penalty fee if you forget your scan card. It is the same gym, the same building, but a radically different experience. That is precisely how banks operate, and once you understand these tiers, you cannot unsee them. Point 1. The extraction tier. This is generally for those with under $35,000 in net worth. Here is a statistic banks will never put in their glossy advertisements. 82% of their overdraft fee revenue is generated from just 11% of their customer base. 11%. That is not a service. That is a targeted extraction operation. Banks collected $12.4 billion in overdraft fees in 2024 alone. That is billion with a B. And that revenue came almost exclusively from the people who could least afford to lose it. The median transaction that triggers one of these fees is just $26. You bought lunch before your paycheck cleared. The resulting fee hammer, it averages around $285 over time. You paid significantly more in fees than the actual value of the purchase. Let's make this tangible. A 3-day overdraft on that $26 purchase calculates out to an effective APR of over 17,000%. That is not a typo. 17,000%. Loan sharks look at bank overdraft policies and think, wow, that is aggressive. 34% of households earning under $68,000 were hit with these fees last year. For households earning over $105,000, less than 10%. The less you have, the more you pay. That is the system functioning exactly as intended. Here is the psychological component nobody discusses. When you are living within this tier, every single financial decision passes through a high-stress filter. You are not thinking about investing or compounding wealth. You are doing frantic mental math at the grocery checkout. You are compulsively checking your banking app 5 times a day. Your brain is locked in survival mode. And survival mode does not build wealth. It just keeps your head above water until the next payday. The required action here is simple but critical. Get $1,200 into a separate buffer account. That is it. $1,200 completely changes your relationship with your bank. It is the wedge between paying overdraft fees and not. It is the difference between perpetual survival mode and taking the first step toward opportunity mode. Even setting aside $55 a month gets you there in under 2 years. Point 2, the predatory product buffet. Now for the part they do not advertise. Overdrafts are just the appetizer designed for this tier. The real devastation comes from financial products specifically engineered to target people in this situation. Payday loans are marketed as quick cash solutions for emergencies. In reality, they are financial quicksand. The average payday loan APR runs between 395% and 410%. A typical $380 loan usually costs over $530 in fees. And only about 16% of borrowers can actually afford to repay on time. So what happens? They roll the loan over repeatedly. 1 in 5 payday loans gets rolled over 10 or more times. That $550 emergency loan morphs into $2,200 of debt within months. Auto loans in this tier are equally brutal. If your credit score is below 610, you are looking at 16% to 22% APR on used cars. Someone with good credit pays between 6 and 8%. On a $32,000 car loan, that is the difference between paying roughly $4,500 in total interest versus nearly $14,000. That is practically a $9,500 penalty just for being poor. And store credit cards? Want to save 15% at the register today? Sure. The APR is 32%. 90% of store cards carry maximum rates exceeding 30%. And those deferred interest promotions miss a single payment and they charge you retroactive interest on the entire original purchase balance. Here is where most people get confused. They view these products as solutions. They are not solutions. They are designed to feel like a lifeline while actually pulling you deeper underwater. The payday loan industry exists to trap you. A 400% APR is never the solution to any problem. If you are in that bind, literally any other option is better. Borrow from family. Sell something you own. Negotiate directly with whoever you owe money to. The cost of swallowing your pride is far cheaper than the cost of a payday loan. Point 3, the compounding damage. Let me zoom out, because this is where the picture gets truly dark. Being unbanked, meaning you do not even have a basic bank account, costs roughly $3,200 a year in check cashing fees, prepaid card usage, and money orders. Over 30 years, that is $96,000 in direct costs and about $320,000 in lost wealth if that money had been invested instead. You are paying a literal poverty tax just to access your own money, and the people who can least afford that tax are the ones paying it. The damage is not just financial, it is deeply psychological. When every interaction with money costs you something, you start avoiding the topic entirely. You stop opening statements, you stop checking balances, and you develop what psychologists call financial avoidance. And financial avoidance is the single best way to guarantee your situation deteriorates. Your brain starts associating money management with pain, so it avoids the pain, which creates more financial problems, which creates more pain. It is a self-feeding cycle, and the banks profit from every single rotation. Now, let me place two people side by side. Both earn $52,000 a year. Identical income. But one has a $22,000 savings cushion and a 760 credit score. The other lives paycheck to paycheck with a 630 score. The person without the cushion pays annually about $220 in overdraft fees, $150 in monthly maintenance fees, $1,600 extra on auto loans, $130 extra on credit card interest, and $70 in out-of-network ATM fees. That totals over $2,170 a year just for remaining in the same financial position they were in last year. Over 30 years, that is roughly $72,000 in direct costs and approximately $282,000 in lost opportunity if that money had been invested. That is nearly a $300,000 lifetime disadvantage. Same income, different tier. The $12.4 billion extracted annually in overdraft fees, that money funds the so-called free checking accounts enjoyed by wealthy customers. You are literally subsidizing their banking experience with your late paycheck penalties. That is not a conspiracy theory. That is the business model written directly into their quarterly earnings reports. If hearing that stung, good. It should. Because this is the identity shift that matters. You have to stop seeing these fees as normal. They are not normal. They are a system extracting wealth from people who do not have enough information or enough liquid cushion to escape. And the very first step to escaping is recognizing that you are inside the trap. Point 4, the middle class upgrade, ranging from $35,000 to $1.2 million in net worth. Let's shift gears. This is where banks start acting slightly less hostile. You get access to tiered premium programs with names like Preferred Rewards and Priority Banking. They sound sophisticated. Let us examine what they actually deliver. Bank of America's Preferred Rewards program starts at $25,000 in combined balances. That secures you gold status. What does gold status provide? A 30% bonus on credit card rewards and a $250 reduction on mortgage fees. So, If you were earning 1.5% cash back, now you are earning roughly 1.95%. Revolutionary. At $55,000, you hit Platinum, getting a 55% rewards bonus. Platinum Honors kicks in at $110,000, giving you an 80% boost. Now that 1.5% card becomes roughly 2.7%. That is actually meaningful if you spend a significant amount. Chase Private Client kicks in at $160,000 in combined balances. You get a dedicated banker, free ATMs worldwide, and a 0.3% discount on auto loans. Citi Gold requires $210,000 and adds a wealth advisor and museum passes. Wells Fargo Premier wants $260,000 for relationship mortgage pricing. Here is the catch nobody discusses. Keeping $55,000 at Bank of America's 0.01% APY instead of a high-yield savings account paying 4.2% means you are losing about $2,300 a year in interest. That lost interest often exceeds the total value of the reward bonuses. You are paying for the privilege of being a preferred customer. And credit card rewards, they are literally a wealth transfer mechanism. Federal Reserve research found that rewards programs move $15.5 billion annually from low credit score consumers to high credit score consumers. People with scores above 790 earn about $10 per card and save $725 in interest. People with subprime scores earn about $190 in rewards, but pay $655 more in interest. The rewards game is rigged. The house always wins. The action here is to ruthlessly do the math on whether parking cash for perks actually beats high-yield savings returns. Know the thresholds. $160,000 gets you Chase Private Client. $110,000 gets you Bank of America Platinum Honors. These are real benefits if you can reach them without sacrificing significantly better returns elsewhere. Run the numbers before you commit. Quick sanity check on mortgage access in this tier. The overall approval rate is about 83%, but the relationship discounts that actually matter, like 0.15 to 0.4% off HELOC rates, require maintaining $25,000 to $110,000 in balances. Most Americans cannot access meaningful rate advantages because they cannot afford to park that much cash earning practically nothing. The middle tier gets a taste of the good life, but the real feast is still behind another locked door. Point 5. But Pam, I cannot afford to park cash anywhere. I hear this constantly, and it is a fair point. Most Americans cannot afford to park $25,000 to $110,000 in a low-interest account just to qualify for perks. Here is the pragmatic counter strategy. You do not have to play their game at all. Credit unions exist. They are member-owned nonprofits that typically charge lower fees and offer better rates. They are not perfect, but they are not designed to extract maximum revenue from their most vulnerable customers either. Online banks and high-yield savings accounts now offer between 4.2 and 5.2% APY with absolutely no minimum balance requirements. That is 420 to 520 times what the big banks pay on regular savings. You do not need preferred status. You need a better bank. And if you have improved your credit score or net worth, check your rates on everything immediately. Credit cards, auto loans, mortgages. You might qualify for refinancing that actually saves serious money. Banks will never call you to offer better rates. You have to ask them. That 5 minutes of asking could save you thousands. Point 6. The VIP Club. Over $1.2 million net worth. Now for the part that will either motivate you or infuriate you. Probably both. At $1.2 million, Citi Private Client gives you a dedicated wealth management team, a World Elite MasterCard debit with hotel upgrades and concierge services, and $450 in annual subscription rebates. Nice perks, but true private banking is a different universe entirely. JP Morgan Private Bank requires a $12 million minimum. Goldman Sachs Private Wealth requires $12 million. Morgan Stanley Private Wealth asks for $6 million. Bank of America Private Bank requires $12 million. At these levels, you get access to something the rest of us do not even know exists: securities-based lending. This is borrowing against your investment portfolio without selling anything. You do not trigger capital gains taxes. You do not lose your investment positions. You just use your wealth as collateral and get cash at rates between 4.5 and 6.5%. The total market for these loans is $145 billion. Meanwhile, regular people are paying 9.5 to 11.5% on personal loans and 12.5 to 16.5% on credit cards. The wealthy borrow at half the rate or less. Let that sink in. The people who need loans the least get the best rates. The people who need them the most get crushed by interest. This enables what financial advisors call the buy, borrow, die strategy. And yes, that is its actual name. Step 1. Buy appreciating assets like stocks or real estate. You pay no taxes until you sell. Step 2. Borrow against those assets at 4.5 to 6.5% interest. Borrowed money is not income, so you pay no taxes. Step 3. Die. Your heirs receive what is called a stepped-up basis, meaning all capital gains accumulated during your lifetime are erased for tax purposes. They inherit the assets at current market value and can sell immediately with zero capital gains taxes. You lived off borrowed money, never sold anything, never paid taxes, and your kids inherit everything tax-free. That is not a loophole. That is the system working exactly as designed for people who can afford sophisticated tax attorneys. Here is the decision fatigue angle. When you are in the extraction tier, you make dozens of stressful financial decisions every single week. Paper or plastic, generic or brand name, pay this bill or that one. Every decision drains your mental energy. In the VIP tier, you make almost no tactical financial decisions yourself. Your wealth manager handles it, your accountant optimizes it, your tax attorney structures it. The wealthy do not just have more money, they have more mental bandwidth, and that bandwidth compounds just like interest does. Point 7. The locked door of investment access. Two numbers matter here. To become an SEC accredited investor and access hedge funds, private equity, and pre-IPO deals, you need $1.2 million in net worth or $210,000 in annual single income. Only 15.2% of American households qualify, but they control 79.1% of all private wealth. Hedge fund minimums range from $110,000 to $12 million. Private equity minimums go from $260,000 to $26 million. The average company now stays private for 11 years before going public, compared to just 7 years in the 2000s. What does that mean for you? Most of the massive value creation happens in markets you are legally locked out of. By the time you can buy the stock on a public exchange, the biggest gains have already been captured. The wealthy do not just get better service, they get access to entirely different financial instruments. Here is the psychology that actually matters. When you understand that these tiers exist, you stop blaming yourself for not keeping up. The game has fundamentally different rules depending on which tier you are in. A person in the extraction tier is not losing because they are bad with money. They are losing because the products available to them are designed to extract wealth, not build it. Recognizing this is not about making excuses. It is about making informed decisions within the tier you are currently in while working strategically to move up. Let me make this concrete with two people. Let's call him Mark. Mark earns $52,000 a year. He keeps his money at a big bank earning 0.01%. He has no buffer, so he gets hit with overdraft fees 4 or 5 times a year. His credit score is 630, so his auto loan is at 18%. He holds 2 store credit cards at 32% APR because he needed the discount at checkout. He saves nothing because there is simply nothing left to save. Mark is not lazy. Mark is not stupid. Mark is trapped in a system that charges him for not having enough money, which makes it harder to have enough money, which generates more charges. It is a closed loop, and the banks report record profits every quarter, while Mark checks his account at 3 a.m., wondering if his rent payment went through. Over the next 30 years, Mark pays roughly $72,000 in avoidable fees and excess interest. If that money had been invested in a broad index fund instead, it would have grown to approximately $282,000. That is the wealth he never builds. That is the house down payment he never makes. That is the core retirement he never has. Then there is David. David also earns $52,000 a year. Same income. But David builds a $1,200 buffer in his first year by automating $55 a month. He moves his savings to a high-yield account earning 4.2%. He pays his single credit card in full every month, building his score to 760 within 3 years. He keeps housing and transportation under 50% of his take-home pay. He starts investing $110 a month into a broad index fund once his buffer is solid. David does not make more money than Mark. He does not have a trust fund. He does not have a finance degree. He just understands the tiers and acts on the boring moves that shift him out of the extraction tier as fast as possible. Over 30 years, David avoids that $72,000 in fees. His investments grow to approximately $180,000. His higher credit score saves him thousands on his mortgage. He eventually hits the preferred banking tier, getting fee waivers and rate discounts that accelerate his progress even further. Same income. Same starting point. The difference is not talent or luck. It is understanding which tier you are in and executing the boring moves that shift you to the next one. Build the buffer. Automate savings of at least 15 to 20% of your take-home pay. Pay credit cards in full. Keep housing and transport costs under 50%. Invest in broad index funds. Avoid timing the market and expensive financial fads. Maintain 3 to 6 months of expenses as a runway. These are not exciting moves, but they are the actions that change which tier you occupy. The banking system has 3 tiers because that structure maximizes their profit. The extraction tier pays the fees. The middle tier thinks they are getting deals, while their lost interest subsidizes the VIP tier. And the VIP tier gets the actual deals, pays the least for capital, and passes wealth to the next generation tax-free. Once you see the tiers, you cannot unsee them. And once you understand the math, you can start making moves to change your position. This is not about becoming a millionaire overnight. It is about becoming the kind of person who refuses to let the system extract wealth from them without a fight. The kind of person who builds a buffer instead of paying overdraft fees, who moves their savings to a high-yield account instead of letting a big bank earn 4.2% on their money while paying them 0.01, who checks their rates, compares their options, and acts on the boring, disciplined moves that compound over decades. Most people will watch this video and do absolutely nothing. They will nod along, feel angry for about 10 minutes, and then go right back to letting their bank charge them $38 for a $26 lunch. That is not you. If you have watched this far, you are already different. You are the kind of person who wants to understand the system, not just survive it. The system is designed to keep you in your current tier. Your job is to understand the system well enough to move anyway. Here is your single next step. This week, open a high-yield savings account and set up an automated transfer of whatever you can afford. $55, $25, the amount does not matter. What matters is that you stop letting your bank profit from your inaction. That one move, that tiny automated transfer, is the first crack in the wall between you and the next tier.